So yeah, I like Donkey Kong Country. I won't call this series underrated or anything either. Believe you and me, there is a fandom for this franchise. There are people who are capital O obsessed with this series of games. I'll admit, I was shocked by how many people liked and remembered Custom Robo, but they're a drop in the proverbial bucket compared to the amount of diehard love and adoration Donkey Kong fans have for this series of games. Is it as big as Mario? Of course not. But Mario is freaking Mario. Saying DKC isn't as big as Mario is like saying Shaquille O'Neal isn't as big as Michael Jordan. Yes, he is not. But like, does that really matter? This franchise and character are still getting a freaking theme park. So yeah, I consider myself a fan of this franchise. I'm no freak or anything, I'm not going to be appearing on the Conversation podcast anytime soon. But I do fondly remember growing up with these games, and I've beaten them multiple times. I still remember playing the original Donkey Kong Country for the first time. It was like magic. Like, wow, these graphics are in 3D! This is a game from the future! And since then, DKC 1 has gone on to be my least favorite of the SNES trilogy. Yep, I actually like the third game better than this one. I know that's sacrilege to some people, but that's just how I feel. That's not to say the original doesn't have qualities that put it above the others. In terms of raw atmosphere, this might be the most naturalistic country game. It really feels like you're exploring a wild and untamed environment. The world feels much more living and realistic than any other game in the series. You don't exit levels by jumping on a silly bullseye platform or grabbing a flag either. You just leave the level and continue on. It gives the game a real ambiance, a real atmosphere, a real sense of realism. Like you're actually moving from place to place. The world map is just an abstraction of your progression, as the levels themselves are your moment-to-moment harrowing adventures. With that said though, what I like about these games, more than even Mario games to an extent, are their levels. The DKC series has always done a good job at classic platforming level design, introducing level gimmicks, progressing the difficulty of those gimmicks, and then abandoning them when they're all but exhausted. So why not rank them, worst to best? Yes, I'm going to go over all 35 levels of Donkey Kong Country 1, and rank them from my least to most favorite. I'll be deciding these rankings based on a bunch of random, arbitrary factors. I might like a level because of its vibes and atmosphere, or I might like a level just because it's fun to play. And like all ranking lists, this comes with a typical disclaimer. This is all just my opinion. If I hate a level you like, it doesn't mean anything. You don't have to adopt my opinions on things, okay? And just to be clear, I do like Donkey Kong Country as a whole. And the levels themselves are generally pretty short. So the gulf between my most hated level and my most liked level isn't going to be massive or anything. I won't say the worst level ruins the game, and I won't say my favorite level is the one I replay constantly. That's just where they stand. As a whole, the game is pretty good. Also, I'm going to do that thing that Shafrillis does, where he just plays a little audio bit in front of every entry, because that's just the best way to do it. Alright, it is on. It's on like something that rhymes with on. Torchlight Trouble has the distinction of being the only level in the original Donkey Kong Country where I would call the gimmick of the level actively detrimental to the quality of the level itself. It's a dark cavern where in order to get to the end, you need the help of Squawks the parrot holding a flashlight. That by itself isn't the problem though. The problem is when you need to turn around. Yeah, see what I mean? This is the only level in a Nintendo game where I might actually have to warn someone with epilepsy that they might not want to play it. Now, fortunately, the version on the Switch Online store does fix the problem a bit, but even with that factor removed, it's still mostly just a forgettable cave level. I'll express my problem with the caves later, but yeah, this level having an actually detrimental gimmick shoots it all the way down to the bottom. Sorry they did you dirty, Squawks. You'll get a better shot in the next game, though, I promise.
I'm the boss.
Every single boss battle in this game, save for one, which we'll get to. Yeah, it's no secret that the worst part of DKC 1 is the bosses. They all take place in the same arena, they're all just giant versions of enemies, 2 of the bosses are recolors, and they're all very easy to fight. I guess it's kinda cheating to put them all in one spot, cause technically these are 6 separate levels, but it's my list and that's how I'm doing it. Worst to best bosses? Dumb Drum is the worst, he's just an enemy gauntlet that kills himself. Necky's Nuts is after him, he's just really easy and dies in 3 hits. Very Naughty is after that, he can maybe catch you off guard if you're lazy, but he's still really easy. Really Naughty Rampage is after that, he's still really easy, but you at least gotta pay attention to him. Necky's Revenge is after that, dodging his projectiles can be hard. Best boss is Bumblebee Rumble, because it feels like an actual boss fight. Yeah, that's my order.
Far o'er the misty mountains cold.
Misty Mine is kind of a perfect encapsulation of my problem with the latter two levels of this game. Creme Croc Industries and Chimp Caverns. Because practically every level in the last leg of this journey is a dark, dingy cave. Like, I understand the game is trying to feel like an adventure, and you're getting to the heart of the bad guy's lair, but I don't know, some variety might have been nice. I like that this level tries to up the atmosphere with a fog texture, but the actual content is just kinda lazy. Like, oh, these metal barrels just produce an endless supply of enemies you gotta jump on. What? And that's the gimmick of this level? Yeah, it's just a gauntlet of endlessly respawning enemies coming out of these metal drums. If it wasn't for the fog texture all over the front, there would be almost nothing else to say about it.
Shell City?
Clam City is an underwater level, and I'm gonna come out here and say this, I think underwater levels kind of suck in most platformers. Now, don't get me wrong, aquatic ambience is a bop, but we're not grading soundtracks, we're grading levels. Underwater levels have the disadvantage of not really interacting with the game's mechanics. There's no physics, no coyote time, no momentum really, just mash A to move up or sink. Or get on guard and gain more stable control. Every underwater level has on guard, by the way, probably because of this. Furthermore, DKC1 has an issue that its two sequels don't. The developers clearly didn't have the technical knowledge on how to transition Donkey from running to swimming during gameplay, which is why all underwater levels are their own separate levels. You can't walk around on land as Donkey and then jump into the water and start swimming. It has to be separate, meaning that they're even less varied than all other level types. And of all the underwater levels in this game, Clam City has the least to talk about. It has more clambos than the previous underwater levels, and that's it. Swim to avoid fish and pearls, and you got it down. Yeah, there isn't much else to say.
You are one giant lump of coal!
Elevator Antics continues to highlight my biggest issue with Donkey Kong Country 1. I counted all the level types and there are 5 cave levels, 5 mineshaft levels, and 5 walkway levels. And they all have the same kind of vibe to them. Which is a problem in a game where, as I said, vibes and atmosphere is one of its strongest qualities. And almost all these levels are sequestered in the latter half of this game, which illustrates how I generally dislike this game's later levels. So yeah, Elevator Antics. It's kind of boring. It's just another cave level with ropes. The gimmick of this level, if you even want to call it that, doesn't show up until the halfway point. And that gimmick is boxes of coal that go up and down. Yay? Coal? I guess the implication here is that this coal is being delivered to some of the earlier levels? Speaking of... I think the implication with Oil Drum Alley is that the Kremlings have built some kind of industrial park on Kong Island. So I guess the reason K. Rool stole Donkey Kong's banana horde to starve him to death was that so he could strip the island of its natural resources? Damn, this series goes more hard than I realized. But yeah, the reason this level is so low on the list is 2 things. 1, I don't really find the atmosphere all that compelling, it's just a dingy industrial park. It's very banal, which might be the point, but doesn't do much when all the levels after are just caves and walkways. 2, if you're just playing this game casually, this level isn't offensive. But if you want to get 100% in this game, this level freaking sucks, and for one reason. The bonus levels in this game are all super difficult to find. They basically ask you to slam barrels against any random wall you can see, and this one is particularly egregious. This is the only level in this game with a bonus room hidden inside another bonus room. How do you unlock it? You need to get 3 single bananas in this one game. Grab the barrel, avoid this stupid metal plate for some reason, and walk into the far right wall. If you don't, you just complete the bonus level as normal and don't unlock the extra one. Who on earth thought this was a good idea? Can we talk? I have questions. There's trolling the player, and then there's this.
I mean, what is the theme here? Underwater?
Coral Capers is the first underwater level of the game, and it gets bonus points for the novelty of that alone. It might have all the problems of underwater levels that I outlined before, but it's also much more lax and easygoing, so you're allowed to take in the ambience more. I don't know how DK and Diddy are able to hold their breath for so long, or for that matter, swim at all. No, seriously, monkeys and apes cannot swim. Humans are like the one major exception to that rule. But it's pretty enough, so I'm not about to ask questions.
What killed the dinosaurs?
Ice Age Alley has the unfortunate distinction of being a filler level by my estimate. It's only one of 2 snow levels in this game, and it more exists to put a barrier between the last level and the one after it. Outside of Espresso being there, it's somehow less remarkable than the other snow level, which we'll get to. But yeah, it's basically just another snow level like the last one, but not quite as challenging or interesting. It's just very bright and open, which is a stark contrast with the last one. Which again, we'll get to.
'Cause I'm TNT.
Trick Track Track is an interesting level concept that sadly would get used a lot better in a later level. You're basically on a moving platform avoiding enemies and such trying to get on with you. It's an auto-scroller level, so that might take away some points as well, but it's inoffensive enough. Outside this one bonus barrel that basically teaches you how to use coyote time. But yeah, otherwise it's a perfectly inoffensive level. Once again, it's a dark walkway level in the latter half of the game, so it sadly loses points for that. I don't mean to harp on that point too much, but I'm kinda shocked I never realized this until now.
Hey, Flaps. What we gonna do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
Vulture Culture is known for having a lot of neckies, and that's it. It's only one of 2 forest levels in the game, so that's cool. But outside of a few barrel sections and some moments where you need to bounce on enemies, there isn't much to say about this one either. It's another filler level like Ice Age Alley, unfortunately. It's perfectly competent at being a level, I guess. I wish I had more to say about it, but it kind of just feels like an introduction to Vine Valley.
Cranky.
Putting Gangplank Galleon so low on this list may seem a bit mean, but I think it's right where it needs to be. Better than any other boss in this game, but not as good as any of the actual good levels. Getting to fight King K. Rool finally is cool and all, and the song is great, but the boss fight itself is pretty basic. He runs at you, sends down cannonballs, then he jumps at you. Wait till he throws his crown, then jump on his head. Not much else to say, really. I think the only thing that makes this fight memorable are the fake-out credits. I remember me and my brother fighting K. Rool and thinking we finally beat him here, only for him to revive and kill us immediately. We were so mad at that. Like, how dare the game lie to us? But nowadays, yeah, he's pretty easy. Also, I won't lie, I never got why his fight was on a ship. Like, he's a king, not a pirate. Not until the sequel, anyway. Like, usually you fight kings in castles, right? Yeah, well, that's just nitpicking. On to the next.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole.
Poison Pond is the most challenging of the underwater levels. It definitely has the most amount of enemies and obstacles to avoid of any of these. I won't lie though, while I do appreciate that the water is a toxic green to indicate the pollution the Kremlings have been making with their factories, it's a bit undercut by there still being fish in this level. I think it would have been better if it was just full of mincers. Or maybe put in some skeletal fish enemies, just for the creep factor. Enough wish casting. This level gets to be here by virtue of being an underwater level with a more unique color palette and being a real challenge to get through. But other than that, it's still an underwater level, so it's here.
Or there'd be like, a rhino there too.
Manic Mincers is sort of like a ground version of Poison Pond, and that's why they're so close together. I like how this level utilizes Rambi. See, in most levels, Rambi is an objective buff. He's super strong, able to charge through enemies, and takes a hit for you. But in this level, he's big and his momentum throws you off, especially on these small platforms. Not to mention, he can't harm the mincers. However, he can still charge through walls and get through some of the harder enemies on this level. So you do still want to hold on to him, meaning he's gone from being a buff to sort of a challenge. See how far you can get into the level with Rambi, and I really like that. The only reason it's still low is because it's another cave level and there still isn't much to say about it. Loopy Lights is another level in this game to play with the concept of visibility. Now, unlike with Torchlight Trouble, this one is handled pretty well. You basically jump on these barrels to turn on the lights when they switch off. It also introduces these jumping claptraps, whose gimmick is that they jump when you do. It's not a bad level per se, but it's one of the later levels in this game, and sadly I think there are earlier levels that do more with the same kind of idea than this one. Again, man, the latter half of this game's levels are just really dark and drab, and it kind of takes away from my enjoyment of it.
Under the sea, in an octopus's garden.
Croctopus Chase is the best underwater level in this game solely because its gimmick is at least somewhat cool. You're basically chased throughout this level by these blue-ringed octopi. Considering how dangerous they are, yeah, you better swim. The level forces you to actually consider the mechanics and momentum of swimming for a bit, like how you have to not press A if you want to descend. Neat! It's not the most thrilling level in this respect, but it's fun, and that's what puts it here.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Winky's Walkway is the introduction to my favorite animal buddy in the entire series, Winky the Frog. Seriously, he's great. He gives you incredible height, he can jump on anything, including zingers. And look at him! Look at this absolute Chad of a frog! Winky has only ever been in one game, and that is a travesty. Hashtag justice for Winky. But yeah, the level itself is just kinda short, and nothing much else happens in it. It's just an introduction to a great animal buddy, who we will see in a number of other good levels, and that's what puts it here.
Snakes?
Reptile Rumble is the third level in this game, and it sort of highlights my issue with the latter half of this game. It's a cave level, but it's in between two jungle levels and a water level, so it feels like a break in the pace rather than just another trial to add to the slog. It gets to be here because of its simple charm, just a big cave full of snakes. Not much to say other than its placement is ideal, and the challenges it gives you fit for where you are in the game.
The bouncy, trouncy, flouncy, pouncy, fun, 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 fun.
Bouncy Bonanza is sort of like Reptile Rumble, only it has Winky, so that automatically makes it better. As the name implies, it's basically an excuse to play into the game's various jumping mechanics. Tires, jumping kremlings, and zingers. Winky's presence here really helps with the last bit too, since he lets you kill zinger enemies. Just a nice, fun, bouncy level overall. Anyway.
Then who was flickering the lights?
Blackout Basement is the final level in this game to play with lighting, and I think it's the best one. It's in a factory, but the lights will turn out in a rhythm. And all you'll be able to see is yourself and some bananas. I'll admit, I would have liked the bananas to be hidden as well and maybe only show where your character is via their eyes like in a cartoon. Maybe Donkey's just able to smell where the bananas are and that's why we can see them. But other than that, I really like how this is done. It's legitimately fun to run through this level and guess where the platforms are based on where you saw them last and intuition. Plus, I was legitimately shocked at times by enemies appearing right in front of me once the lights came back on. I don't know if they're programmed to only appear at certain times or what, but it's impressive that they were able to do this. It actually makes the normally bland industrial park setting actually a bit scary and intimidating. Like the enemy is turning off the lights to try and get the jump on me or something. That alone puts it over the rest.
Ropes are for dopes.
Rope Bridge Rumble is another Winky level, so I'm already contractually obligated to like it. It's actually cool how the level treats Winky as sort of an easy mode. Like if you don't find him or refuse to use him, the zingers make the level that much harder. But if you do use him, he can just bounce on them all he likes. Cause as we all know, frogs beat bugs. That's like the one Pokemon rule the games don't tell you about. So yeah, good level. I also really like the background and theme, but it's not the best level to use as background and theme. We'll get to that.
Welcome to the jungle!
Jungle Hijinks does what every starting level in a platformer game needs to do. Put you in a safe environment early on, give you some context clues to the story of the game, reward you for exploring, introduce you to the enemies, bring in some mechanics, and prepare you for what's ahead. In that respect, it might be one of the best levels in the game. But it's still just the first level, so I can't give it too much props. The most interesting part of it is the ending. When the scene transitions to night. If you grew up with nothing but Super Mario, then this must have seemed incredible. Like, whoa, what? The sun set while I was playing, and it stays night when I go back through the level? No other game was doing this, I think. And this transition led into...
My name is Monsoon.
Ropey Rampage is the second level of the game, and it basically capitalizes on everything the last level set up. We go from a beautiful jungle day to a turbulent monsoon. The swinging ropes and rain truly convey what this is. An adventure. A time of ups and downs, and more downs, and more downs, but still, Ropey Rampage is a great follow-up to Jungle Hijinks, and that's why I'm putting them both side by side. They complement each other, telling us that this isn't just a bunch of segmented levels. This is a journey we are about to embark on, and it only goes up from here. In the list. In the actual game, it kind of peters off after Gorilla Glacier.
Love is a song that never...
Forest Frenzy is the only other forest level, and it's definitely the better one. It throws way more enemies at you and puts you into way more harrowing situations. The final bit with you on the rope and trying to avoid all the zingers and neckies alone is probably what puts it here. It is an auto-scroller type of setup, yes, but it gives you a level of vertical control you don't normally get. It's a cool gauntlet at the end and a really enjoyable level.
Override loading sequence. Fire. 3, 2, 1.
Barrel Cannon Canyon might be the singular most important level in all of Donkey Kong Country. Why? Because this level introduced what is basically Donkey Kong's signature power-up and mechanic. Mario has mushrooms, Donkey Kong has barrels. Yes, we all know Donkey Kong throws barrels, that's how it was in the original arcade game. But this level introduced the idea of Donkey Kong jumping into a barrel and it firing him like a projectile. That's just a cool idea no matter how you slice it. It allowed his games to have a certain sense of momentum and timing. Waiting patiently for the right barrel to move in front of the one you're in, just to press A at the right time and watch the fireworks. It's a bit automated, sure, but it's also iconic and would be a staple of the franchise and character going forward.
You mean we're out of gas?
Tanked Up Trouble is Trick Track Trek done good. It's the same premise as that level, only with a unique twist. The platform you're on has limited supply of fuel. You need to touch these barrels to keep it fed and going. If you slouch, then it runs out and falls. Simple idea. But it makes the rather basic concept just that much more interesting. Now the platform isn't just a thing you gotta stay on and defend, you need to manage it. You need to go out and put yourself in danger in order to make sure it can get you to the end. That little extra is all you need in order to make a 6 out of 10 idea into an 8 or even a 9 out of 10 idea. But that's enough to put it here, below the number 10 spot.
Oh dear! Beaver fever!
Millstone Mayhem is one of the two Ruins levels of this game, and while it may be the weaker of the two, it's still really neat. The Ruins almost remind me of Disney's Jungle Book for some reason. I'll admit, I'm mostly putting this one here because it trolled me. Winky is in this level and I swore that there was a bonus barrel on top of the end section that you needed him for. So I tried again and again and again and again to get my little frog pal past these stupid beavers. I learned the ins and outs of his jump arc. Here's a tip, tap really lightly to get a smaller jump out of him here. I jumped off him and killed these snakes through rolling just to make sure he wouldn't get hit by the naughty above us. And after all that, yeah, no, you just need to collect these 2 banana bunches at the end. There's no actual bonus he's required for. Live and learn, I guess.
Dunstan checks in.
Orangutan Gang is shockingly the last jungle stage in the entire game. It's also the introduction to the most mysterious enemy in the Kong series, Monkey Kong. An evil Kong? Why? What did the Kremlings offer them? Or are they also enemies of the Kremlings? Are they an individual or a species? You know, I actually thought that Lanky Kong from DK64 was a reformed Monkey Kong, since they're both orangutans. Although the name of the level seems to imply that Monkey Kongs are a nickname for a species that belong to a group. For all this lore alone, it deserves a spot if you ask me. Oh, and the level itself is also pretty fun too. Although I'll be frank, I'm not a big fan of Espresso. He's really fast, and while his gliding is cool, he has no way of actually attacking enemies, so he can actually be more of a hindrance. He doesn't take away from the level itself though, so it still gets to be number 9.
You missed! How could you miss? He was 3 feet in front of you!
Snow Barrel Blast may be the most intense barrel challenge in the entire game. It's kind of nuts how Ice Age Alley comes after this level, despite this level being much harder. Okay, look, there's actually an easy path to take in this level, and I actually wound up taking it on accident. Twice. So yeah, you can actually make this level a lot easier for yourself if you know what to do, or you're lucky. But even outside of that, it's ice physics and a billowing blizzard over the front of the screen, with intense rolling barrels and zingers everywhere. It's crazy and a ton of fun. The vibes of this one are particularly strong. Just a great level all around for number 8.
This is madness!
It's crazy to me that there are only 2 minecart levels in this game. 2! I've played this game multiple times and I keep forgetting that. I mean, yes, this game isn't the longest, I 100%ed it in an afternoon. But still, with how iconic minecart sections are for the series, I'm absolutely floored that there are only 2 in the entire first entry. The first one goes to Minecart Madness, and since we're already here...
Call us Carnage.
Minecart Carnage edges it out just slightly. Both these levels are basically neck and neck with each other. but I think Carnage is just a bit more thrilling. I like being in one cart and jumping over obstacles, rather than having to switch carts and jump out of it. Although the final Kremling in Carnage gets the award for the second biggest troll in the game. With the biggest one being the fake out credits scene, obviously. Seriously, I can remember spending almost an hour on this level, trying to get past the tricky jumps. Finally reaching what feels like the end, only to get hit by this piece of crocodile shit on the way out. Gotta love games that are willing to knife you when you think you're safe.
Now, what would a platform game be without platforms?
Platform Perils is the last true platforming challenge of this game, and I think it mostly accomplishes what it sets out to do. The level introduces two new mechanics, moving platforms that eventually fall, and the stronger crushes who have to be killed with barrels. Eventually it combines the two at the end for a mad dash. You have to kill these guys to free up the platforms with the barrels provided. It's the last real test of the player's spatial awareness, and I think it does an admirable job. Plus, introducing a slew of super tough enemies in the last leg of the journey is always a neat idea. The only thing that drags it down is, again, the theme and atmosphere. Our last real platforming challenge before we square off with the king are some tin plates with white arrows painted on them in a dark cave. Yeah, I'm not exactly feeling the thrill of the oncoming climax if you catch my drift. Still though, it is a challenge and that earns it the number 5 spot.
Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead.
Stop and go station is one of the more unique gimmicks in this game, and I'm shocked that it's not only so early in the game, but that they also don't use it ever again. We have a group of invincible, super fast Kremlings that are basically made of stone. But thankfully you can paralyze them for a period of time by hitting these barrels. The only problem I have is that I think it'd be better if they were paralyzed when the lights are green and active when the lights are red. Like, red light just screams danger to me more than green does. It's legitimately kind of scary going through the last leg of this level and trying to get to the end before the time runs out and the rock crocs reactivate. I think what they should have done is make this level slightly harder and put in Misty Mine's location. Then move Misty Mine's location here. That I think would have been a lot more impactful than what we got, but oh well, can't change the past. This level still earns its place at number 4. Temple Tempest is a lot like Millstone Mayhem, only it earns its place by basically letting you do an Indiana Jones. The naughty inside the huge stone wheels will chase you in this level. While you can't easily outrun them, that's kind of the point. It's meant to give you the classic pulp adventure feel of running through an abandoned temple while traps and monsters try to kill you. The Ruins theme might be my second favorite theme in the game, and this level really makes use of the overall atmosphere. It's a thrilling chase through abandoned ruins, and that's enough to put it at number 3. Treetop Town is the most technical and tricky of all levels in DKC 1. It has it all. Enemies that drop from the sky, launch barrels, hidden pathways, bonus rooms. The atmosphere of this place is incredible too. Like, who made these houses? Why are their lights still on? Do people live here? What even is this place? Funnily enough, in the Japanese release of this soundtrack, they called this music the Ewok level. I guess someone over there didn't worry too much about copyright. That or the Kremlings are in for a rude awakening once they bring in more of their war machines. Either way, this is the most exciting and complete level in DKC 1, with a cool theme and soundtrack on top of it all. It deserves the number 2 spot. Slip Slide Ride might be the most unique level in the entire game. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean it is the most unique level in the game. Why? Because its Ice Cave theme is the only level in the entire game to use it. And it's beautiful too. The music for it is also incredible, and I reiterate, it's the only level like this. It also has a unique gimmick as well. These blue and purple ropes send you up and down depending on their color. This level is a one-of-a-kind highlight that I'm absolutely floored didn't get reused. I, no joke, think that my opinion on this game would be vastly improved if Chimp Caverns bothered to use even one more level with this theme. Just to spice things up. And don't tell me, oh, they couldn't use it, this is an ice cave, and Chimp Caverns is too warm. This is not ice. This is crystal. Hell, if you really want to force it, then just change the color. Shift all the crystals from blue to bright pink and boom, Crystal Cave. One last bright spectacle piece before we get to fight King K. Rool. Make it a minecart level, come on! But as for the level itself, it's also a lot of fun. It's not particularly challenging or tricky, but the rope mechanic is interesting, and learning how to climb the ones that slide you down is a cool challenge. It just floors me that they'd make a level theme like this and use it only once. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, they say, and that absence is what puts this level at number 1. So that was Donkey Kong Country, and yeah, not gonna lie, I was surprised at what my number 1 wound up being when all was said and done. And I think that, yeah, I still stand by DKC1 being my least favorite of the original trilogy. I need to reiterate, I don't think it's a bad game by any stretch, but looking at where a majority of my least liked levels are, yeah, I do think this game goes a bit downhill after Gorilla Glacier. It doesn't get super boring or anything, but the vibes definitely take a hit to being dark and dull, and they don't let up until the end. It's still a great game, and if you like it, then hey, more power to you. I definitely still think highly of this game as Rare's first real big entry onto the Super Nintendo. Thankfully, they would improve though. Oh yeah, don't go thinking this video is a one and done. We got a whole 4 more games to get through. But until that day comes and I decide to tackle the big one, well, eat your bananas. They're a vital source of potassium. Also, no, I'm not going to do a ranking for DK64. What are you, crazy? What would I even rank? Every golden banana? No thanks. I value my time